What's up, everybody? Welcome to the channel. We're going to take a look today at the and I keep wanting to call it the PV5150, but it's not. It's the EVH 5150 Iconic combo amp. It's the 40-watt version. It's got one 12-inch speaker, two 6L6 tubes. It's got two ECC 83s, I believe they are, 83, whatever, the smaller tubes. But it's got two of those. So many years ago, I owned the original 5150 combo amp, and it had two 12-inch speakers, and it was much bigger and heavier thing. I even put casters on it. It was so heavy. But it was a monster of an amp, and for some reason that I cannot remember why, I sold it. And I've kind of regretted that move ever since. And so when the Iconic came out, I started doing my research on it, just like you're doing now, and watched some reviews. I thought, this is something I might want to check out. So my first question was, if the when I buy a combo amp, first thing I want to know is, first of all, yes, you can practice with it, obvious why you get it, but does it have enough power to also, jam with your band? Can you play live with it? Will it keep up in a room? If you don't, let's say you have no PA and you're just running this thing, will it keep up with a live band? And I can tell you, after practicing, I've practiced with two different bands with it since I bought it, and I can tell you, yes, it keeps up with it very well. One of the bands, Warrior Alive, our Christian original band, check us out on YouTube. Those guys play loud. This dude's got a Hughes and Kettner, the big one, the triple whatever it's called, and it's a big beastly amp. And of course, he didn't have it cranked up all the way, but we set it up, and then we set up our room and jammed, and it kept up very well. And then I did a guest spot last week with a cover band, and I went to their studio and practiced, and no problem, kept up, no problem. And I only had the volume on about 2.5, so there was plenty of room to go. One of the things the 5150s, at least my experience with them, and I've heard other people kind of talk about, is when you crank them up and you got the gain going, they kind of hiss. Things sound like an angry rattlesnake if you just stop playing. So this one has a built-in noise gate, and I noticed when I practiced with Warrior Alive here at the house, I had the noise gate cranked all the way to 10, and it was pretty quiet for the most part. Occasionally, depending on where I was standing or if I was under a light, every once in a while I'd get a little, and then I noticed wherever I was standing or how I held my guitar would determine how much noise was coming out of it. But when I practiced at the studio with the cover band, the thing was dead silent, no matter what. And I had it cranked up pretty loud, and it didn't make a peep. So, my experience with tube amps and this type of thing has always been the wiring in the place where you're at is going to play a big deal in how much noise they make. And also fluorescent lighting, different things. If you're in front of TVs, monitors, computers, all that kind of stuff, it all makes a difference. So it's not always the amp's fault, but I can say the noise gate on this one it seems to work pretty well. I haven't had it that long, so if I start having issues, I may have to get another, get the Boss noise gate or something to kind of tame it down a little bit if I need to. But we'll check it out and see. This is actually the second one of these I've owned. I went to Guitar Center, and I was pricing around, and this is December of 23 right now, so I'm pricing it around. Again, it retails for $8.99, so Guitar Center had it in there, and they're knocking 15% off this month for Christmas. They're trying to sell a bunch of these. So they knocked 15% off, knocked it down to $764. I thought, it's not a bad deal. I'll go ahead and try it. The problem was they only had one. It was the floor model, which I think, okay, no big deal. There was a little bit of smudges, dirtiness where people were messing around. Clean up, no big deal. But I got it home, and I started messing with it, and I realized, what you can't see in this frame, the EVH logo was not there. And there was the holes where the screws were, but there was no logo. And I thought, well, it's not a very iconic looking amp if you don't have the EVH on it. So I thought, my other thought was, if it's been knocked around that much, has it been damaged? There's something going to go wrong with it later on. Could have had some issues that could show up later if it's been banged around that much. So I took it back, and they went ahead and ordered me a new one. And they were supposed to ship it to the house. It actually wound up back at the store, and which made for some panicking phone calls away from the house. I called my wife. I got a notice, hey, your package has been delivered. Like, there's nothing here. I figured it out. I was at the store. So anyway, mistakes happen. No big deal. I went and picked it up. Came in the box with all the styrofoam accoutrements and whatnot, keeping it nice and safe. Inside you had the power cord. You have the foot switch, a little small foot switch, but it just changes channels from red to green, and then you got a boost. And it's got a pretty long cord. I just measured it out. I think it's about 20 feet long. I didn't get a tape measure, but just walking it off. So it's pretty long. You'll also get some documentation with your 2-year warranty. You got your don't do this, don't do that type manual. Read me first, basically, in a bunch of different languages. So it's not as much documentation as it looks. It's all about 1 page each. And then you get your little handy book here. And again, this one is in more than 1 language. It's not very many pages long. Looks like each language is going to be about a 2-pager. But if you watched any of my other videos, I'd like to show you the bag, but I don't have all the different angles of the cameras and all that kind of stuff. So sometimes we got to break it down for you here. This is what the back of the amp looks like. Your power cord, of course, goes here. Power switch, standby, and this button here switches it back and forth between full power and a quarter power. So maybe if you live in an apartment, or you got thin walls, or you got people with whom you live that don't like all the racket, you might want to engage that. We also have a preamp mute and a speaker emulator XLR out. Now my understanding of these is you can go directly out into a like an interface and go into a recorder or your computer and that sort of thing. But I think then that's when you'd want to use if I read this right, I've never actually done this kind of stuff, but I think that's when you're going to use that mute switch. Check before you do that, because I would double check before I started doing stuff like that. You have your ground. You got a pre-out and effects loop here, and of course your foot switch goes here, and you got 2 speaker outputs here. It comes plugged in to this one, and you have another one there, and it tells you about, you can run it out to a 412 cabinet, a 212 cabinet, or what have you, and here's where you're going to want to make sure all your ohms, your P's and S's is set. So anyway, pretty straightforward. Again, when you turn the page, we're now in Spanish, and then the next page. So it's not much information, but it does tell you what each thing does for you. So not a bad reference, especially if you're not super techie and don't know every little thing, which again, like I said, I'm not. I've never used an XLR out interface, so I do want to get into that. I just haven't never had the need to. So anyway, you got that. We're going to take a listen to it here in just a minute. And but basically on top, your control panel's on top. Your power switch, your power switch is on the back. Your plug for your guitar. You got 2 gain switches, 1 for each channel. You got a noise gate. Now the gains for the 2 channels, on channel 1, you got a crunch button, which I have not tried yet. We're going to try that together here in just a minute. And then on the, you have a overdrive button, not a crunch. You have a little button where you can manually switch between channels here, or you can use the foot switch. You also have on the channel 2, which is the red channel, which is where all the high gain is, you have a burn switch. I've heard some people say they like it. I've heard more people kind of criticize, like maybe it's a little bit too much gain. Maybe it's just giving it too much. It's your personal preference. You got your EQ, low, mids, and highs. We got a volume channels, volume switches for each channel. So there's no master volume. So you got channel 1's got its own volume, channel 2's got its own volume. That's it. We have a boost volume here. which is very important. I'll tell you why. Over here we got reverb, resonance, presence. The boost, I didn't really pay attention that there was a boost volume knob. When I first got it and I was sitting there jamming, so I hit the boost and it didn't change the volume. It just kind of sounded the same. I thought, well, the boost isn't very boosty. And then it dawned on me, crank it up. I've got the boost on about 8 now. You got to kind of adjust that depending on your live, if you're playing live. I used it like red channel for, you know, heavy rhythms and whatnot. Hit the boost to play a solo, so it cut through, and it cut through just fine. If you put it on 10, you're going to be way louder than everybody. I mean, it goes way. So I had to draw the boost back a little bit, which I was actually kind of relieved of, because sometimes I've had experiences with, like if you had the guitar with the boost button on the guitar and it's supposed to give you enough to play a solo, and it doesn't. This boost volume will, so you're gonna have to find that sweet spot for yourself. Yeah, it's so far I've been pretty content with it. I'm gonna take a listen to it here. Let me put this down here on the floor. Now we're going to be running strictly what the lapel mic picks up is what you're going to hear. So you may not hear quite as good. It may not sound quite as good as some other reviewers, but you'll get the idea. And I figure if we're going to review the EVH amp, we need to review it with an EVH guitar. Let's see what it sounds like. So right now we are on these. I do apologize for that. My dog has gotten on the cord there. Get off there. I'm leaving that in. Crank it up just. Now move that volume knob just a hair. That volume right now, if you can tell, is right about 1 right now. So you can get an idea. And it was on maybe 3/4. I mean, I moved it just a hair to get the volume change there. Now, this is volume boost on 8. I think it got turned up a little bit more. Like I said, you would have to set your boost volume based on what your live setting is like, what your other, you know, a lot of different things. But basically, find that sweet spot. But these knobs turn very easily. They're like guitar knobs. The quick knobs you can spin real quick and easy versus the ones you got to kind of turn. These knobs move very easily. So if you're moving it from one place to another and you're moving around, you're touching stuff and grabbing, you're probably going to knock these knobs around a little bit because they do turn very easily, which is fine. That was with the burn on. That's the burn off. So and I like the burn on for this, the way it's set up right now. To me, it gives it just a little bit more crunch, a little more, you know, you can kind of sink your teeth into it. I like hitting these open chords like that. You can really let it ring and hear what it sounds like. So that's the dirty channel. That gain is only on about, where's my gain? I don't know. Oh, gain is only on 2. So there's a lot of room to go there. I don't like, you know, to me, I like good, heavy, warm, crunchy sounds. You can have too much gain sometimes, and it just gets kind of like, you know, it just, so anyway, that's only on 2. So right now, the EQs at lows at a little over 4, mids a little over 4. The highs are on about 6 right now. I would bring those down a little bit when, again, these could have gotten knocked around since I brought it home the other day when I came home from practice. Because it's still a work in progress. I'm still dialing it in, and this is just where it happens to be right now. Like I said, boost is on about 8. My reverb is on 3. And then resonance is 5, and presence is also on 5. So turn the presence down. That sounds varied. Resonance at 5. That's 0. That's 10. A little heavy, a little bottom. So anyway, you get kind of the idea what it sounds like there. Now, the clean channel. Not bad. Throw a chorus on there, maybe throw a delay on it, give it a little. But this is just the amp. There's no effects running through this at all. It's just the built-in reverb. See those quick knobs? Again, I'm just letting chords ring out so you can kind of hear what it sounds like. This is something I've not tried yet. The overdrive channel on this. There's one thing I noticed. You've got to turn the gain up on this to get sound. You can turn the volume up to 10. If the gain is down 0, you're not going to get hardly any sound out of it at all. So you've got to start to work them together. And so, again, something you're just going to have to do to your taste. Right now, the gain on this one's only on 2.5. So, still pretty clean sounding, right? Overdrive is off. But let's engage the overdrive. Got a little noise. Ooh, got a little louder too. My wife's gonna be down here any minute now. Boost works on both channels. That's gain on about 6. So now the problem with me that I thought about, because I heard other people demo that channel, I thought, man, it sounds pretty good. But if you're playing a song you need to go clean, what do you do? Can you clean up with volume on your guitar? Clean up too bad. So what's going back to the red channel? That's green channel. I'm not gonna lie, I'm kind of digging that green channel a little bit, but that's the red channel. Back to green. So, anyway, that's a decision you're going to have to make. I actually like that distortion on the green channel. And rolling back the volume on your guitar, it cleans up okay. I mean, if you don't play a lot of clean tones, like I don't. I mean, I really don't play a lot of ballady songs. I play some songs that do have some clean parts, and you're right back into it type thing. Warrior Live, we do have a couple of songs where the verses are a clean tone, and then the chorus kicks in with the distortion, and then the song finishes out heavy. I don't know. You could go green channel, control the clean here, go with the distortion on the clean channel, and then use the red channel for your solos maybe. I mean, there's a lot of options. You could do it a lot of different ways, so it's going to be up to you what you particularly like. I think for right now I'm going to stick to just green clean, red dirty, boost solo, keep it like that, keep tweaking it a little bit. And again, this is with no effects, and it's just what you're hearing is just through the lapel mic, so yeah, you may get the full idea. When you put on the headphones, you might hear it a little better, but anyway, it sounds pretty good to me. I'm digging it. Back to the red for a second. You know, I have to say it's a very versatile amp. You know, you can use it in your practice room. You can take it and you can actually play with a band. If you're playing a big show and you got a PA, mic it up. You're ready to go. Or it sounds like you might double check. Sounds like you might could go direct out, but you can just mic it. I was reading the book there. It sounds like you might could go direct out, but I don't know that I would try that just yet without double checking that. My live rig, I use a Hughes & Kettner Black Spirit floor amp, and it has the red box. You can plug your PA directly into it, which was kind of funny. Last week when we did that show, the guy mic'd my amp and the mic kept sliding. I told him, look, I got a direct out, just use that. And he did. And then we went up and played, but the problem was we went direct in, I was way louder. So as soon as I touched the volume on my guitar, it started screaming. I had to turn it off real quick. And I said, look, you went direct out, you need to change the volume. So anyway, he fixed it, but kind of funny when it happened. Everybody's trying to figure out where all this noise was coming from. It's me. So anyway, EVH 5150 Iconic. Does it live up to the hype? To me, it does. Oops, sorry if I made a noise. To me, it lives up to all the hype. It's not a bad investment. It's not super expensive. And I think you're going to get a lot of good use out of it. So, you know, check it out. Enjoy. Merry Christmas.